Hello, everybody. So, this week we are going to be talking about all of your pre J.J. Abrams inaugural pilot episodes. Hello, everybody. I'm Shell Shock here, your favorite unemployed Dabo girl.
And I'm Rin Andromeda.
And I am Captain Too Far.
And welcome to Boldly Going Nowhere.
Boldly going nowhere.
So we've already talked about what we're going to talk about. Should we just jump into it?
Well,
Yes.
first, there's two
Wait.
things, 2 points of order.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
I got my job back.
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah. There was a mix-up in HR. And it all got sorted out, and I'm a captain again.
Oh, that's wonderful, Chris.
Yeah.
Captain.
Weren't you commander last week?
I was. Like I said,
You were captain and then commander. You got demoted for some incident that we will not speak of.
right.
And now you're back to captain.
Never charged.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
because-
good.
Yeah.
So
That makes us all feel better, right? Shall?
I feel safer.
So much safer.
And so then the other important business that we have to discuss is, how was the job search this week, Shell?
Well, I don't have as much to report in the job search department. However, last week, y'all suggested that perhaps I had been too hasty with the Denoblian ambassador, and one of you, I think it was you, said that the Denoblians have a 7-inch tongue.
That's right.
Is that right?
I said 7 foot, but it's really
7
7
foot. It's really
inches.
7 inches because that
7
would be
feet.
7. So I felt, for science, I needed to thoroughly examine this hypothesis.
Where's the story going? Because I
Um,
just got out of an HR issue, and I don't want to.
We'll we'll keep it PG-13, and I'll just say 10 out of 10 would recommend to a friend.
What I'm surprised to hear is that you haven't gotten a job yet based on these headdresses you keep wearing.
I think maybe it's what's scaring them all.
Maybe it's because you're bringing a Star Wars Princess Leia cinnamon roll bun
Cinnamon roll.
look to Star Trek.
It's the wrong galaxy.
Yeah.
Far
No,
away.
I think no, because all she needs is a sticker on her forehead.
That's to be Ariza.
Why don't you just go to
Ariza.
Reza and get a job there?
It's like I'm not as young as I used to be.
Right.
Tear.
Yeah.
There's a category for that.
Whoa, hey.
Oh,
See, HR
Captain
again.
Too Far.
Serious.
We just
Seriously,
deleted
we just
something.
talked about this.
Now we have to edit it out again.
No, nonsense. So let's talk about the first episodes of every show that came out
Pre-JJ.
pre-JJ
Pre-JJ.
Abrams. So let's run through those. So that's the original classic.
Well, it's all written down for you, Chris.
Yeah, but I can't read that. So I'm just going to go for my noggin.
Okay, well, that,
Nothing.
do you want to borrow
So
my
there's-
glasses?
There's the original classic series from the 60s.
Yeah.
There's the 1970s animated series.
Okay,
Then we have TNG, and that was in the 70s. I
Right.
think I said that.
okay,
Then we have TNG from the late 80s,
right.
and then DS9 and Voyager
Okay.
Brain's breaking.
during the 90s,
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right.
and then Enterprise in the
Yeah.
early 2000s.
Yeah.
You're right.
And so we're going to talk about each of the first episodes that aired
Yeah, all the pilots.
and what was good and bad, and hopefully come down to, we don't have to agree, but like what is our favorite and why?
What is our favorite pilot?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's
That's the
tough.
goal of today.
Oof.
Okay.
So
That's
let's
a big ask.
so we
It
can
really
do this in
is.
any
That's a
order
big
that we
ask.
want, but I mean we
I think
might as well
should
do it.
chronologically, which is different than what I'd written down.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah.
But
So we'll do it chronologically. So
Chronologically.
we'll start it with the original series,
right.
which was the episode called The Man Trap. Do you want to talk about how this is the pilot and not the other pilot?
Yeah, so there was I mean, this is not like secret Star Trek lore or anything, but there was. I know you're not super familiar with classic series,
No.
and when we were watching it, I kept going
we're
blah
gonna
blah blah
fix
blah blah,
that.
blah, like talking about the whole. Anyways, there was a pilot that was filmed previous to Captain Kirk's run with a different actor, and it was Captain Christopher Pike, and it was called The Cage, and there's a whole adventure. That was the original pilot, and then the studio didn't pick up the series. They recast a bunch of folks, and then they filmed a new pilot. The studio said it's great, and then they started airing episodes. Now, the other interesting thing is the episode you can clearly tell. The episode that was actually filmed for the second pilot or the first episode of Captain Kirk's actual run ended up airing as like episode 4. And so it's the episode that we watched. It is the first episode that aired, but it wasn't the first episode that they recorded.
Okay.
And you can tell when you're watching it in those first few episodes, they changed very key things in terms of
Yeah.
like the bridge design,
The uniforms.
and the uniforms, and even how Spock and particularly Spock, how he was acting, and like they hadn't really dialed everything in quite yet.
They even switched to using silk for some of the raw silk for some of the like Bones's uniform and
Yeah, Kirk's especially was wildly
Really
different.
noticeable,
They had, Yeah, they were all. Anyways, the point being is that in a lot of that probably the first half of the first season, well, maybe not half, but they were still kind of figuring things out. But the first episode that aired was The Man Trap. I've seen it probably a dozen times or more. But you hadn't.
I hadn't. I don't think I'd ever seen it, but I had recognized the alien monster
The
from like a
sticker-
meme or
Memes.
something.
Yeah.
Be like
So
an octopus had sex with a teddy bear.
With like a sucker.
Right, with those
Sucker
little suckers
mouth.
like the octopus tentacles have.
Yeah.
Right.
does one of you want to try to describe what happens? And do you remember what happens in the episode? Just like real quick synopsis.
Do you know, Shell?
So I excuse me. I know they end up on some science station. That turns out it's got Bones's ex woman, girlfriend, whatever. Right.
It was a planet.
It was a planet. She was there, right?
Yeah.
There was a woman
There
there.
was a woman, and then some other dude
And a dude.
that got with Bones's ex-woman.
It was like her husband, her current husband.
Right.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
but you could tell that she's still
Jonesing
she was still
for
jonesing for Bonesin.
Bonesin.
But that was
Ooh, t-shirt idea.
it's so terrible. We gotta write that down. Yeah.
So all right.
Jonesing for Bonesin.
It's a planet, kind of a desolate planet, and
And she looks the same as she did when he broke up with her. Sorry.
well, and that's the thing that like the mystery starts immediately, because as soon as they start to have a conversation and she enters the room, she looks different to everybody.
Oh, right.
Oh, that's right.
That's
yes.
there.
She's like
Yeah,
really
to Kirk-
old to
to
everyone
Kirk.
else with gray hair, but
Yeah.
Bones
To
is
Kirk, yes.
Yeah, to Kirk.
Bones is like, what are you talking about? She's smoking hot.
Yeah.
She's smoking hot over here.
And then to the ensign that went down with them, the blue shirt, because they hadn't yet figured out that they're supposed to kill the red shirts. And so the blue shirt saw her as a young blonde, like not even the same person.
Okay.
So everyone's perception was different. So you knew immediately that something was off. And then Ensign goes out to get some fresh air because he was starting to say things that were like somewhat questionable.
Oh, that's right. Ensign.
Yeah.
Ensign. No name Ensign.
Yeah.
He was getting a little too,
Yeah, like Captain Too Far.
Captain Too Far. Yeah.
Come
But
on
see,
now.
But that's how. He's more like Captain Too Far is more like old school Kirk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Right?
yeah.
It's not
like
yeah.
off screen
It's
though. Like even
okay.
worse than on screen.
Right. But you know what's
Yeah.
happening off screen.
They edited him on screen.
Heavily edited.
But so people are become like dehydrated and die or something out in the desert planet.
Yeah, so
There's
the
bodies.
first guy gets killed, and then that's part of the episode is like investigating like what killed the guys
Like
under
Ensign
mysterious
dies?
circumstances, and then come to find out that, and obviously as the audience we know that it's the lady that's doing it because
I didn't know that.
What?
I think it's because you'd seen it so many
Spoilers.
oh, when did you figure it out?
times. At the end, like I just didn't put any of it together. Like she's looking different to everybody.
Yeah, you
I didn't
didn't-
really
yeah,
put it all
no?
together. No,
Really?
some suspense the whole time.
Were you watching?
I mean, I was kind of tired. To be fair.
Suspense the whole time.
So then there's this whole thing that happens, and she ends up on the Enterprise and kills a few people on the Enterprise, and attempts to kill a few people, beats the crap out of Spock, and then they have to shoot her like, bleh, and then she
But
dies.
Bones is like, no, don't you see? It's not her. Look how beautiful she is.
She's amazing.
But I love her.
as she's like trying to kill people.
Pretty sad.
Yeah,
right?
he was stuck in
Yeah.
But that's the thing is like one of the things that was kind of subtle is that it wasn't just the monster overpowering you, it also had some kind of like hypnosis that it put on you.
Yeah.
Because like Kirk, for example, was completely frozen and unable to move for a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
And I think that's also why McCoy was blinded, is because she put the hex on him, and he wasn't able to really kind of think rationally or react. And it was Spock actually punching her. But I laugh not because he punched her, but just the because it's it's
like
the
it's
60s,
it's
right?
like the
Yeah.
old Batman. Oof, biff.
No, it wasn't.
No?
I mean,
Yeah.
kinda. I mean, he's doing this. He's like clearly because he's
It is a very violent scene for.
It
just
is,
a
but you
big
can
man
Maybe
to
she
be
was- maybe
punching.
she
even
was
with that
into it.
camera angle, you can
Yeah,
tell
she
that
was
they were
into it.
like not even remotely close to each other. But you just kind of accept it for. It's like
Shell
theater.
said maybe she was.
Yeah, I kind of
into it.
like the the whole forceful
I don't think that's
To
what
s-
was going on.
to
Shell.
sucker
What?
alien. What? What are you
Sucker-
talking about?
She's
Um,
he punched her,
Right.
and then Shell said maybe she was into it.
Just
I think she
mean,
was watching a different.
I think
like,
she was. Yeah.
maybe like a soft.
Cinemax, Skinemax
yeah.
After Dark,
Yeah.
the menagerie.
So basically, we cut to the
On
end,
the
and it turns out
edition.
it's like this life form on the planet that's who Nancy really is like this
Yeah, and her husband
wildebeest
and he
sucker
knew that,
alien
yeah,
thing,
it killed his wife.
and it's sucking all the salt out of
Yeah.
everybody and killing
Yeah.
them
Yeah.
because it needs the salt.
And it's the last of its kind, and
Yeah,
so
we
he
feel kind of
felt-
bad for
He
it.
felt bad for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is kind of sad when they have to kill it, but I mean,
Oh, did they kill it? I didn't remember
What?
that. part.
Spoilers. You didn't watch it.
in fact, it's
Did you watch it?
McCoy.
Oh, McCoy
He has to
killed?
kill his own
Right.
girl.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's what was so tragic about
Yeah,
it.
I don't remember that either.
Oh, I think we should tell everyone now that there's going to be spoilers in all.
Oliver.
As
Yeah,
we
that
go
goes
through all
without
the
saying. I mean, this stuff,
episodes.
like
Yeah.
this show has been.
If you haven't watched it by now, then
Yeah.
you're not a fan.
That's right.
Even
Well,
though
or just,
I
or
hadn't
just
watched
we're-
it until last week.
Yeah.
Well, that's-
or at least if you haven't watched it by now, we don't have to be apologetic about spoilers.
Well,
Yeah.
that and
that was
and
like-
we're describing it so poorly
It's like 60 years
that
ago.
it's probably not really that spoiled.
yeah.
It's it's the
Right.
journey, not the destination.
That's right.
Yeah.
This is no substitute for actually watching it.
No, yeah.
Right?
So
Right.
so I want to get
Totally.
particularly in your case, Ren, because you hadn't really you have not watched much classic Trek,
Right, right.
and this being an early episode, and you hadn't seen this before.
Yep.
What are some things besides the plot? What are some things that stuck out to you, good or bad?
Well, I didn't hate it as much as I thought I would. Like I said, I like the alien guy.
Which is only in the last like 2 minutes of the show.
Yeah.
They grow on you, though.
I don't really think I'm an original series
You gotta-
fan per
You're just-
girl.
that was only the first episode. You gotta give it time.
Okay, I didn't hate it as much as I thought. I probably would watch a little bit more of the original series because I have to for this
Plus
podcast.
Nichelle,
Wow.
Nichelle Nichols.
Nothing like obligation.
Okay,
Uhura.
fine.
She don't have to like-
Sulu's cool. Yeah,
And Nichelle Nichols is good.
Michelle Nichols is great. Spock is great.
Yeah.
I'm not really a big fan of Captain Kirk, William Shatner.
Yeah. No. It'll grow on you.
I did meet
Like a
George
weed.
Takei in person
Yeah, see, that'd
at
be
a book
super
signing, which I have a very sad story about, but we can talk about that later.
cool. Oh.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's had an amazing, just a crazy life too.
What about you? Impressions from The Man Trap?
Again with the man trap. That's like it's the first your first real look at OG Star Trek uh, creature effects.
Yeah,
With
and
the-
actually,
with the
it was pretty
Yeah.
detailed, a pretty
It was
good,
pretty
Yeah, it was
detailed.
good.
Yeah,
and it's only
like
in the
the-
show for like
at
a
the
couple
bath,
of minutes.
the bath mat suckers, like those like shitty hotels, motels, right? With the just stick to the bath. That's what it reminded. But still, I mean, in the moment, it was, I'm sure back then it was scary.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
probably scary.
Back then, it was probably really good.
Yeah, I watched it in the 70s when I was little, so I'm sure I was terrified. I'm fairly sure I was frightened.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would say it was not a good opening episode in the sense that well, and I'm not going to say whether I like it or not, but one of the things that this show didn't do, right, is it didn't do character introductions.
No, that's what I
really.
was just thinking. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you liked that.
I do.
Yeah.
Just
But as
jumping-
far as like most shows, when it opens, in some way, it's like, I'm the new captain, and we're
Yeah.
getting on the new ship, and here's my new crew, or whatever. Most of the time, that's kind of the formula. Whether it's Star Trek or anything else, there's always some kind of thing that kind of tells you who these characters are and what they're doing and all that kind of stuff, and their first adventure or whatever. This just like drops you right in.
Yeah, I liked that actually. I thought that was cool.
And actually the other pilot, no, I won't say pilot, but the first episode that they filmed that ended up being episode 3 or 4 or whatever. I think it's called I forget what it's
You want me to
called.
look it up?
No, it doesn't matter. You'll know it when you see it. It also just kind of drops you in.
Yeah.
And these characters, for all we know, they've known each other for years. They've been working together and whatever, and it's just like they are who they are.
We got to get to the next one. We're trying to keep it under an hour here.
Half of that time is
Oh yeah, our first take.
our first take of introductions, which is awful.
All right. Well.
But anyways, I don't mind the Man Trap. I thought it was good. Let's talk about. Oh, I'm gonna sneeze.
Oh no.
No, I've coughed in the last 2 episodes, so it's
Aw.
fine.
We can edit it out or not. So we'll do TNG next. No, animated series.
So the animated series,
Oh yeah.
it's an animated series
Yeah.
from the
Yeah.
70s.
Yeah.
Feel like the
We
age
kind of tried to watch it.
We did
Spider-Man
watch it
and
last
Friends.
week.
Spider-Man and Friends. What was the?
It was to that level.
To that
yeah.
level,
It's
yeah.
that level of animation. It was kind of
Yeah.
cheap. The only redeeming quality, well, not the only. I mean, one of the only redeeming qualities that it has is all of the actors came back to voice their
Yeah,
characters,
super cool.
which is great.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, moving on.
But that's really all there is to say. If
Okay.
you want to watch 70s animation,
How many years was there between OG Star Trek ending and the animated series?
about 4 or 5 years.
Oh wow!
I want to say it was early mid 70s is when that one came out, I think.
So I wonder, was that when they started planning for the motion picture?
Yeah, which wasn't intended to be. I don't think that was originally intended to be Kirk, because that was all part of Star Trek Phase 2. It was supposed to be a new series that was going to start. It was going to be a whole new everything. But then that elements of Star Trek Phase 2 turned into the motion picture, and then the new series didn't rematerialize until Next Generation. So
Okay.
let's talk about
Shell, do you want to go over Next Generation
Encounter at Farpoint.
with your outline that I made? I printed out very professionally for
The
you.
one I can't read because I don't have my glasses. I did make some notes though. I think I can read those because the font is bigger.
I mean, I can go over it and you
Um,
guys can talk.
So
We're doing great.
We're doing a good job. So I want to talk about why in the middle of this epic Star Trek moment saucer separation, right?
Okay, wait, but we have to introduce which one it is.
Didn't we just do that?
Encounter at Farpoint.
Encounter at Farpoint, parts 1 and 2,
Okay.
right?
Okay, action.
Right. So it the very beginning of the episode, correct, is the saucer separation. Am I?
But why do they do the saucer separation?
All right. Well, then we'll do preamble, and then I can talk about what pisses me off.
All right, so it starts with humanity is on trial via Captain Picard with the entity Q,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
and it's this really annoying scene with all these like medieval people, looks like the Renaissance fair, yelling at him in this like court with like his crew.
With his flying dune imagery chair.
And then so they're kind of on trial. It's like a pending court case. They leave, go back to their ship, then they like scurry and scamper off, and then they're at Farpoint Station on Denab 4.
Well, so Q makes a deal with them.
Yeah, okay.
He thinks humans are trash and all deserve to die. And Picard makes a deal with him that he can prove to him that humans are,
Oh yes.
they're worth saving.
No longer savage.
No longer
We've
savage
changed.
and have redeeming qualities.
Which I sort
then-
of disagree with at this
yeah.
point.
Yeah.
And then there's an
Yeah.
alien creature. The
It
jellyfish.
was the Cthulhu jellyfish.
What's the deal with them?
So somehow the evil space villagers on what's the name of this planet, Chris?
Denab 4.
Denab 4.
Denab 4.
Yeah.
That's sleazy guy. Little do we don't know, but we know that we find out that they have the ability to manifest, turn your wishes into physical manifestations, right?
Okay. I
The
don't remember
people
any of
aren't
this.
doing that. It's the.
But
It's
you don't know that.
okay.
Yeah. So you know that some kind of psychic flea market thing is happening because Beverly got her bolts of
Yeah.
Oh,
for cloth.
right,
She's like,
right.
"What? I was just thinking."
Yeah,
that.
you skipped over a whole bunch.
I'll take it
Well,
all.
you said a very, very brief outline.
Yeah.
Well, that's true.
You said you didn't
Commander,
want us
too
to
far.
read sentences.
Well, that's
of
true
everything.
too. That's
Your
true
bullet
too.
points.
So as part of the whole character introduction bit, where because some characters start on the Enterprise and they're going to Farpoint Station, some characters are already there.
Yeah,
'Cause-
like Enterprise is starting up. Like everyone's coming.
Oh,
to
yes,
Enterprise.
Riker's
like
waiting.
The crew's assembling, basically.
Yeah,
right?
Riker's waiting on this planet. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
who else?
Beverly.
Jordy's there. Beverly and Wesley
Diana
are there.
Troy.
No, Deanna Troy is she's on Enterprise.
Oh, okay.
With
okay.
Picard.
Yeah.
Got it. What else did we miss?
Worf has great hair.
And Worf has.
And so-
And he's in a
Worf-
bad mood.
And so let's go back to the saucer separation thing because you wanted to talk about that. So they separate the saucer because they're being challenged by a floating orb thing
Yeah, jellyfish Cthulhu.
that wraps.
Yeah,
No, not the jellyfish. That's later.
it's different.
That's
There's
totally
another
different.
thing.
So remember the CG wall of
yeah.
graphics stops
right.
it stops the ship in its
Right, right.
tracks
Oh, the
and then
way-
it becomes a ball
Wasn't
and
that-
takes off.
Wasn't
Oh,
that
yes.
Q? Wasn't that Q?
It was Q. Yeah,
Okay.
and so they take off after it, but they didn't want to because it's a new ship and it's on their first mission. They didn't want to jeopardize like all these civilians. Apparently, there's like because there's kids running around and all this stuff,
In
right?
space.
Yeah.
They made it very clear that like this is different than before because it's like bigger ship.
There's kids running around on the ship.
There is, yeah. There's
Yeah,
children
there's
on the
lots
ship.
of children on Enterprise.
Okay.
Yeah, whole
Like,
families,
yeah.
and presumably
Right.
they probably have a mall, right?
A mall.
Yeah.
Space mall.
But anyway, so they do this saucer separation to send all the civilians and
Yes.
everyone
To safeties.
off to safety.
To safeties. Yeah.
And then they take the main drive
Yeah,
and go
and
to
what-
challenge
yeah.
the thing. So
And you would you'd be better at this factoid than I am. Is this the first time in the TV series that we've seen physical
yes,
saucer separation?
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a big freaking moment. I acknowledge that. However, the moment the saucer starts to separate from the drive
the main drive.
hole, drive
The
main
drive hole.
I couldn't remember the bottom part's name. I had to ask for the drive hole. It's not right. The drive thing. The saucer separation.
Mhm.
It busts into the theme song. the whole time, like it's at the beginning of the episode.
It was supposed
and
to
it's
be.
like, really that this epic Star Trek TV moment couldn't get its own little like 10 seconds of, unique sound. Like it just totally pulled me out of the moment. It was dumb. It was unnecessary. The Star Trek separation deserved
think-
better music. I'm just saying.
I kind of agree with you,
Yeah.
and I think they made
was
way
so
too big of a
loud.
deal
It was so loud.
out of the saucer separation.
Right. It was way too yeah. Yeah. It was cool, but I mean, it didn't. Yeah. It was just very, I don't know, Indiana Jones. It was strange.
Yeah, and and the whole scene drug on.
It
Like
did.
when-
Did road, yeah,
It
Yeah.
did.
yeah, yeah.
Like they just
Took forever.
focused on that. It's way too much.
Dun, 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 dun,
Like, okay, we
dun.
get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It comes apart now. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Okay,
Oh.
and yes.
I was just gonna say that we also learn before they leave the planet where they're joining the crew that Troy and Riker they had a thing.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
nothing new. I mean, it was
Yeah.
new then.
Yeah, and she's all talking to him like psychically
That was
Yeah.
weird. Yeah.
and referring to him with like some Betazoid pet name.
Imzadi.
Imzadi, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
That's
And
the thing
make
that's the thing that goes through the whole
Yeah.
series is. But one of the things I
just
really
feel
liked
like
about that scene in particular,
Mm.
and so
Because
and,
he totally shuts her down, poor girl.
and so this is after the first part of the trial thing. They get to the planet. They pick up the people that are waiting there, like the other crew members, and they're doing introductions and all this kind of stuff, right?
Mm.
And so yeah, there's that moment between Riker and Troy, and they're clearly eye banging each other.
Oh yeah, totally. It was in my notes.
Looking at each other longingly, and like there's this whole weird moment, and Picard is just completely oblivious. Like, oh, you know each other.
Oh, yeah.
That's great.
Oh yeah, and there's also during the reinsertion because they make a big deal about Riker taking over that part, and while he's sliding it into home plate, he's like looking at Troy like,
Really? That's really what
you
happens?
remember-
Or
Yeah,
were you
he
reading into
did
that a
not.
little
they
bit?
did, and they made jokes about it. Yeah, huge
I want
deal.
you to stick it in number one.
Huge. Exactly. He even says, I like my crew members to know each other's specialties.
Really?
He
does.
did. He did say
He
that,
did.
Weird.
and he
Yeah.
turned around and walked away. But it's like,
Yeah.
man, how clueless can you?
Yeah.
Yeah, here we go. Immediate sexual innuendos when Riker sees Troy for the first time. I like key crew members to know each other's abilities. You see?
That's
Yeah.
that's really great, Michelle.
Yeah.
You should do that more often, I think.
Yeah.
please
Instead of the Cartman.
So the other odd
In bed.
character introduction
Okay.
Yeah.
scene,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beverly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. She.
Oh,
she,
and Picard was
Picard.
hella rude to her and her
and
son.
she owns his ass.
right?
She just
Yeah.
chews him up and
He was like-
spits him out. It's epic.
He was like unnecessarily rude. Like, get this child off the bridge.
Well, then
Which-
he brought him back
He
for
wasn't
a
even
tour.
on the bridge.
He
I
brought-
don't disagree with
he
that.
brought him back for a tour. Go ahead. Sorry.
And then he got special treatment because it's,
Yeah.
because he was
because he has plot armor.
he was kind of a
Yeah.
dick.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's not the awkward scene.
No, it's after that.
The awkward scene is later
Mm-hmm.
after some so like there's some whole big dramatic thing. This is actually that what felt weird is like it's immediately after another Q scene where it's like, get it right or I'm gonna blow you up, Picard. You're all
Yeah.
gonna be doomed. And he's
Yeah.
like, okay, we'll solve this. And then he just goes to
Beverly's quarters.
not her quarters,
No.
but to
Her
sick bay.
sick bay,
Yeah.
Is it her in sick
To
bay?
have this awkward conversation
Oh,
directly
yeah.
with her.
Yeah.
And it's like, you should be sad, and you can quit your job because I feel like you're probably sad.
Wait, I don't remember any of this.
Yeah, because Picard was best friends with her husband that died.
Oh.
So Picard shows up and he's like, clearly your trauma is made you incapable of doing this amazingly hard job. So if you need to quit,
I'll help you out.
I'll understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
and she's
like,
He was
Yeah.
kind of a jerk
She-
a couple
yeah, she
times
shut him
in
the-
this.
she's
Picard
like,
was
yeah.
a jerk to a few people in this episode.
I can assure you that My feelings will not impede my job in no way whatsoever.
So what other character introductions stand out?
None,
Well, there's
none
more.
of them.
There's more.
What about-
There's more Riker
No.
and Troy.
What about Data?
I don't remember any
yeah.
data. This was a very confusing episode to me. I was like, what's going on with this? We got these medieval people shouting. We got the Q. We got this planet and the jellyfish. I don't know what the hell is going on.
How do you feel about Q?
I like Q down the road. He's definitely a jerk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's annoying, but I kind of like him at the same time.
Yeah, I kind of like him too.
Yeah.
It's kind of an it's anytime they deal with these like omnipotent beings, it was something that happened in classic Trek a lot, where
True.
they'd run
Yeah.
into these
Greek gods and
various
Yeah.
beings that can do all this magic
yeah,
and whatever.
just energy beings.
We're
and-
powerless,
yeah.
whatever. And I don't know. It always seems kind of trite a little bit.
Yeah.
But the actor that plays Q has such charisma that you just kind of go with it.
I know he's pretty great.
Yeah.
Picard's choice.
What are you gonna say?
Nothing. Nope. Q's great. Always been a big fan. Love me some Q. Yep.
I don't believe you.
Sounds like a lie.
No, so please continue. Yeah.
Picard's choice. I don't know what this means. I forgot.
Picard's choice. Is that,
I don't know what that means
is that
either.
the-
I didn't write that.
No, it was about the aliens, saving the aliens. 'Cause
Oh.
the aliens did something.
Oh, I see. As far as whether to,
because like,
well, there's really only one
he
choice.
figures out that the
We has
Cthulhu,
to save them versus not.
So no,
right?
we skip. So it turns out that the jellyfish Cthulhu monster in space was trying to get to his girlfriend or boyfriend,
Mm-hmm.
Oh right.
right? Because it was buried under, and the people down on that planet had been like torturing their mate,
Right.
using it to because it has some kind of deep psychic powers or something, and it allows it to, they harness that bit to force it to manifest things and then they play dumb about why the angry Cthulhu monster was there in the first place. Like, I don't even know. We've never met before.
And then there's
Yeah.
a trial's end.
Yeah, which honestly, that means the story itself is whatever.
Yeah, I never think.
I think the show really serves to it's really just to get the character introductions done.
Yeah.
The story itself, as far as it's not really that important.
Right.
But a couple of things that stick out as important character things, thank goodness they do better with it later. Well, I guess one thing that's great right from the beginning that I had forgotten because I hadn't seen this in a long time is that O'Brien is there
Yeah,
from the very beginning.
yeah.
On the first
on the deck,
episode.
on the
Okay.
deck, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
He runs ops, and I think he's in a couple of other scenes, but he runs ops on the battle bridge
Mm-hmm.
when
Yes.
when they've separated.
Okay. We have to come back to
Mi-
O'Brien in the Deep Space
Miles.
Nine
Yeah.
because I have a point on O'Brien for the Deep
Yeah.
Space Nine one.
Excellent.
Yeah, there's. Yeah,
And
go ahead.
then not so great is Troy.
Mm-hmm.
Troy doesn't get pants. Everybody gets pants, but Troy. I wrote that down.
Does she have a skirt on? Oh, she
Every-
does have a
she
skirt.
has a tiny little, barely covers her hoo-ha skirt.
But she
and-
chose that skirt.
well, I mean, Tasha gets pants, and she looks cold.
It's probably
to me.
like you can. It's
She
like
looks
it's
cold
like
to me,
being a
that's all I'm
mailman
saying.
or a mail person.
That's
You
all I'm
could
saying.
you can have shorts or pants.
On away missions,
Or
we
a skirt.
cover our hoo-has for science.
And that one's interesting too because it is a uniform.
Yeah,
It's not like
it is
most
regulation
through
yeah.
most of the series. She actually is wearing non-standard,
Right.
No,
you know,
she
clothing.
She gets the epic jumpsuit.
Yeah.
right?
The
But it's
onesie.
but it's
Yeah.
completely
Onesie.
different from everybody
But
else's.
we
Well,
can talk about
'cause-
that later.
yeah.
I wonder why, but yeah.
But they also Data saves Wesley from a like an ankle deep pond, and certain death also happens.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Um,
right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Data's kind of a jerk in this episode.
A jerk,
Like he's
just-
not.
He is.
He's
yeah.
no, he's a little
Jerk,
edgy.
really?
Yeah, he's like I'm more superior to all of you, and
I mean,
that kind
that's
of
true.
stuff. It is
That's
true, but like
true.
you don't have to say it. It's like rude, you know.
All those
And
sexual
more
positions
emotive.
don't earn themselves.
Yeah, much more
Yeah.
emotive.
Than he
And
later.
like an
is.
aggro.
Yeah,
kinda
yeah.
way.
Think so?
Speaking of skirts,
Yes.
one thing that I noticed, I mentioned this in I don't remember what episode we were talking about short skirts, and I mentioned that in TNG there was one walking down
Yeah.
the hallway. Well, there's
Yeah.
another
Oh,
one
yes.
I saw that. I thought that's
Yeah.
what you were talking
right
about.
in engineering.
No, there's a second one that we
Oh.
didn't. Yeah, we didn't catch before.
So there's at least two, and I think there might have been
Just like some
three
Yeah, yeah.
non-binary
appearances
background crew member.
Of what is
yeah.
it again? Can you repeat?
of
for our
a
listeners?
of a guy wearing the same kind of short skirt uniform.
Mhm.
It's just wonderful.
Yeah, but they don't. Yeah, it's just.
But this is the only episode you ever see it.
It's just a thing. They don't make a huge deal of it. Just
Yeah, it's just
part of
totally-
just part of the. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I always thought that was great.
Okay, so next, are we done with this one?
Is there
I think
anything
so.
else that stands out for?
No,
No.
For-
no,
ex-
pretty much no.
I was a little discombobulated during this. I had actually I was like on my phone spacing out several times, and I had to
Ooh.
go back and rewind it like 3 times.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Just to get through it.
I was like, wait, what is happening? Why is this happening now?
Mm.
I guess it was just like really long and like kind of it just felt like an odd story,
Rambling.
an odd plot line.
It is, and the pacing is pretty slow.
Yeah, yeah. They lost me a couple times.
So, did you catch that Picard insinuates to the whatever the evil planet mayor guy that the Ferengis are cannibals? Because he's like, well, the deal's off. Then fine, we'll just leave, and and then let the Ferengis deal with you. And he says like, I bet they'll find you really tasty. I'm like, oh, so that's the first
Mention,
mention
Yeah.
of
and the Ferengi do show up a couple episodes in.
right, and then,
They're still
in
working out
another,
their
in
species.
another way. Yeah, Quark.
Yeah.
Remember, Quark gets all, how dare you? What's his name? Sorry, different episode we haven't gotten to yet.
Yeah, that's a totally different show.
Sorry,
Yeah,
sorry.
You're not even on the same.
Sorry,
planet.
Harry.
All right, let's
Yeah.
move on because
Yes.
Escape
Yeah.
at Farpoint or Encounter at Farpoint.
Yeah,
It introduced the characters.
I mean,
Most
yeah,
of the
kind of,
characters didn't
sort
really
of.
even behave like themselves as
No.
we come to know them over time.
Mm-mm.
They're all off just a little bit. The one that was closest,
just like us.
but neither was Geordi. He was fairly accurate and kind of stayed consistent. And I think he was the only one. Everyone else was like kind of a weird caricature version of the
themselves.
character that they become.
Yeah.
Even Yar,
I was about
right?
to
She
say
was
even
so
Tasha.
bombastic in
Yeah.
this episode. Like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, because she jumps up in
Okay,
Q's face, like ignores the Captain Picard's directions, and like let's play it cool, and she jumps up there and she's all screaming about you don't understand. I go from a planet.
yeah, she's kind of, borderline
Yeah.
hysterical. Worf like threatens
Yeah.
to shoot his phaser through the
Worf
screen of the
doesn't
ship,
either. Everybody,
Yeah,
like everyone's like
yeah,
taking stupid pills.
Yeah.
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 Well, let's move on.
Okay.
So we're doing Voyager next, I think, which is the caretaker. I think that's what consecutively comes next.
Mm-mm.
Deep Space Nine?
Deep Space Nine is next.
Oh, great. Well, I'm kind of an expert on this Deep Space Nine.
Okay, because that's not on my notes.
Broken Bow is the pilot.
Bow.
No, that's
Bow.
Enterprise.
That's right.
You're a good expert. Deep Space Nine is the emissary.
Hey,
The emissary.
hold on. Deep Space Nine is the
It's
emissary.
The emissary.
I'm gonna
That's
get it.
right.
All right. So there's starts out with the tragedy at Wolf 359,
Yeah.
which is where Cisco is on he's on a ship. I
He's
don't
on
know.
a ship. I don't remember
And
the name of it.
Yeah.
and Picard is like Locutus
Locutus,
of
yeah.
Borg,
Mhm.
and like basically Cisco's wife dies, and it's actually really traumatic, and he's got to get out
He
of there,
saves
grab his
grabs
son,
his
yeah.
son.
So then 3 years later, he gets an assignment for Deep Space Nine, and then Picard is like somehow kind of like
They
is
dropped
the
him off.
admiral or something. I don't know.
Well,
He's something.
basically, I don't remember why exactly the Enterprise was there, but I know that Cisco hitched a ride
Right.
to Deep Space Nine on the Enterprise, and I don't remember
Right.
where it was going from
But
there.
Picard's kind of like the senior guy he's checking in with as he gets to Deep Space Nine. And then, he's got to meet all these like personalities. Basically, it's like, I guess Deep Space Nine is orbiting Bajor, which is coming out of an occupation from the Cardassian reptilian aliens. and they're like pulling out. So the Federation is showing up to try to support Bajor. They want Bajor to join the Federation at some point. That's kind of like their goal, the Federation's goal. And then Major Kira is like she's going to be the first officer, and she's kind of a B to. She's a major B to. Do you guys know what I mean when I say that?
Yes.
Okay. She's a major B to Cisco, and
Bajoran.
She's saucy. She's not me.
She is a major.
She is.
She is a major Bajoran.
Yeah. Yeah. She's saucy.
that's confusing.
She's still working through her trauma.
But yeah,
not-
she's very mean.
angry.
She's effusive.
And she doesn't really want the Federation there because she feels like it's
we've been through this already,
Bajor needs to like stand on its own 2 feet.
Yeah.
And then you've got it's kind of like very discombobulated. Odo is there. He like was working for the Cardassians. Now he's taking on the chief of security role. What else we got going on there? That's kind of it. Like, so Cisco gets there. He's like, I don't know if I want to do this.
He feels like super triggered, right? He, sees Picard and he brings
Right.
everything back to him, and
He's kind of angry with
he's
Picard.
angry and
Even though it's not
angry in the
Picard's
situation.
fault.
Right? But feelings aren't logical, right?
Yeah.
So he's got like a major chip on his shoulder and
Right.
sure I want to do this, and why am I here?
Yeah.
Do we meet Quark?
Yeah, Quark is there. Quark
there.
wants to
Well,
leave. His nephew gets like caught stealing, so Cisco's like kind of blackmails him or threatens him into staying and keeping his bar on the station, becoming a community leader because he can foresee this will be good for the station.
Because people get thirsty.
Yeah, and they need
People
Dabo
get
girls.
And they need Dabo girls.
Yeah.
Apparently not anymore.
And he starts to kind of get along with everybody. Dax shows up. That was his old friend, so they have this connection.
She's a Trill.
She's a Trill in a new body. She was Curzon before. Now she's Jadzia Dax.
Yeah.
And
she
so
was, male-bodied before when they were best friends, right?
Yeah.
Now she's more female-bodied
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
But still has the same memories, but also has, like, they're the same, but they're not.
She has her own
Each
from
new
her own.
host takes on the new traits of the new host, so.
She has her own memories.
Yeah.
And then she has all the memories of these past, like, 9 people,
It's been
basically.
super interesting. I always thought they were one of the most fascinating Star Trek races, in my opinion.
They are. So then, what I didn't really get from before, which I did get this time, which is that Deep Space Nine, they need to move it because they discover this wormhole that like is stable. So somebody stabilized a wormhole. They discover it for the first time, and they want to move. Like O'Brien and Kira and Dax want to move DS9.
Miles is there.
They want to move it over to the wormhole to kind of like, make Bajor stake a claim, or the Federation stake a claim instead of like the Cardassians, which is really like a political move. And so they figure out a way to do that while Cisco's off, like he's off inside the wormhole having, and he also visits with like Kaiopaka, the Win,
the shaman leader of.
She's the Win of Bajor, which is a spiritual leader, and she tells him, I'm backtracking. She tells him that he's going to be the emissary. So he's like, "What are you talking about? What does this even mean?"
Yeah, I'm not part of your religion. Don't count me in.
Yeah, Bajor has it's like a very like pious religious culture. So they
matriarchal, matrilineal, or whatever. Major metaphysical.
I don't know if it's matriarchal, but it's spiritual. They're highly spiritual.
Yeah.
And so he gets this news he's going to be the emissary, doesn't really know what that means. He ends up inside the wormhole and like starts having visions with the prophets, which are these like wormhole aliens that Bajor worships.
We've all been there.
Right.
Yeah,
Right,
they're
not,
like
but
basically
they're not really what Bajor thinks they are.
But I mean that's like kind of debatable. They are the gods of Bajor. And that's what they are. So he's having like these visions. They kind of like create a hallucinogenic type of vision where Cisco's like,
yeah, they're induced by the aren't they induced by the orbs?
Yeah, they're
or
induced
whatever?
by the orbs, but I think he's just like also having one inside. He's having one because that's when the screen goes to like white behind him, and I think he's on the ship, but he's just like out having this kind of like
Vision Quest.
Yeah,
or
Vision
whatever.
Quest
Mhm.
experience where he's kind of talking to them about how they exist linearly, and he is existing as a corporeal being linearly. And then what's interesting is that it takes him back to his trauma of his wife dying.
Yes, and takes the persona of his wife as
Yeah.
an avatar.
Yeah, they take in like they take
Yeah.
on all these characters in his real
Which
life.
that whole bit, well, not like the whole beach scene, was
Was it
kind of
the
like
beach or the park? Was the
Cringe.
park? Was it the
yeah.
park? Because they go through. It goes through like him meeting his wife for the first time and them like.
It wasn't bad.
falling
I'll
in
give it.
love.
I'll
I mean,
give it.
okay,
It wasn't
sure,
bad.
it was
I've seen
tried.
worse.
I mean, you know.
Yeah. And yeah, it was kind of interesting because they're like, you say you're linear, but you're still here in this place, which was like the exploding ship
Yeah.
with her dying.
Yeah,
And
he-
it's
he-
like
he
it's
didn't
like with
understand
trauma,
yeah.
you're stuck in your trauma.
And he didn't get it at first.
He didn't
didn't
get it.
understand. What do you mean? I'm not there. I'm here. Yeah.
Right. So it's like a lot on like grief. This is what I love Deep
Yeah.
Space Nine. It's like really deep. I feel like because it's like dealing with like occupation and trauma and
Yeah.
like
so they
cross-
yeah.
cross-cultural
Yeah.
integration. Like there's so many.
Yeah.
Post-colonization.
Mhm.
And like this like whole Dominion War that happens later on. But anyways, Gul Dukat shows up seeking a Bajorn orb because he's like a narcissist.
Yeah. They
Basically,
got to reuse the
collect them all.
the vagina forehead prosthetic again.
Well, I wouldn't say that if we do a vagina forehead episode, I wouldn't say the Cardassians have
It's
vagina
the same.
foreheads.
It's the same.
I mean, there's no vagina that looks like that, like smashed down like that, right?
Have we seen them all? No.
Yeah,
it's
we
not
should do
the
some
sma-
research.
It's not the.
We need to.
It's
We need
it's
to
the
find
ri-
out.
With
It's,
diagrams.
it's the ridges. It's not the smush parts. What kind of
Oh.
vaginas are you looking at that have the smush parts? No.
Well, which part of the forehead are we looking at?
It's the ridges, like the ruffles. You know. It's like the.
What is
It's like the labias.
I was gonna say,
it's
what
the
is your
the la-
what does
Alright,
your
let me-
vagina look like?
Yeah. Does
Like-
it have ridges?
like,
Never mind.
like a potato chip. No, it's the what are they? The labia majoras, right? Is that what they call them?
That's a different star
That's the
system.
ridges. That's the. We're gonna dedicate a whole
what kind of
whole
chips?
episode
Okay.
to anatomically correct
So there is a
So-
story
Star
that
Wars vagina
happens,
moments.
we have to keep going.
Forehead, vagina.
but it's kind of secondary to the characters, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
What?
The story of the first episode.
It's secondary to the characters?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Because one of the things that I think this episode does, because I really don't remember exactly what the story is. Like things happen,
Right.
but it's not. It doesn't really stick out to me as like that's not what sticks out to me.
Yeah.
I think what sticks out to me that I really liked, as they were doing the character introductions, is that for the most part, other than Chief O'Brien, who wanted to take on this new challenge, right? No one else really wanted to be there. Well, that's not true.
Oh, Bashir.
Bashir was overly eager
Yeah.
to be there for all the
Yeah,
wrong
I
reasons.
forgot to mention him, but yeah.
Yeah, and then to a condescending degree.
Yes.
It's not really explained why Dax took the assignment
As like science officer.
as like science officer, and
Yeah.
and O'Brien, kind of ended up there, and he's like,
Yeah.
okay, whatever, I'll take
Well,
it.
yeah,
True.
It's a promotion.
His wife doesn't
Yeah.
want to be
But
there.
Cisco-
Keiko doesn't want to be there.
Yeah, Cisco doesn't want to be there. His
Right.
kid doesn't want to be there. His wife doesn't want to be there. Kira doesn't want to be there. Doesn't want him
Odo
there.
doesn't really want to be there. Cork doesn't want to be there.
Right. And so there's varying degrees of people that are just kind of pissed off,
Yeah.
which is kind of a fresh take
It is.
from what
Yeah.
we saw in TNG.
Totally.
Super gung ho and
Yeah.
Go
And
team.
and Cisco's style in particular is nothing like Kirk or Picard, as far as how he approaches situations and
his
people,
energy
and
is very
he's
different,
got a very
yeah.
different energy.
Mhm.
He does. He's also my favorite Star Trek captain.
He's so great.
He's really
He's
amazing.
so great. He's so good.
I love him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I like it. I like it a lot too. I think it's
Yeah,
I
it
think
was
it's great.
It was a great.
He was as
episode.
intense in real life too, which I always
He's very
like to
Avery Brooks. I remember his
Yeah.
name.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah.
He's a
It's
jazz
just
musician.
one of those, where you just listen to him talk, and it's like, yep, they wrote the whole, they met you, and then they wrote the character.
He's out there. He's really out
Yeah,
there in
he's
real
a-
life.
yeah, he's
He's very grounded in his role as Cisco.
super,
actually.
super chill. Just
I don't think
just
I don't.
very-
He's not chill.
Yeah, but he's in the way that he's just so grounded in his own essence.
Oh,
like,
in
he's just,
As
As
Cisco.
or just as himself.
No,
either
I
way.
think
It's the same-
as
it's the
himself,
same.
he's really
I-
out there.
Yeah, I've seen
Yeah.
I've seen some interviews with him.
I don't know,
Yeah, he's like-
He's an interesting guy.
He's out in outer space.
Cisco went way out there too in his character.
Well,
In
yeah,
moments,
Yeah,
in moments.
yeah. There's some psychosis that kind of happens with him.
I mean, yeah.
But yeah, he's
I
very
relate, that's all
he's
I'm
got
saying.
the way that comes out is like he's got a very dynamic kind of
Expansive, yeah.
the way he the way he gets emotive.
Mm.
It's like it's very
Yeah, it's
I don't know.
kinda-
I don't know how to
it's
describe
Very
it.
passionate. He'll go from
a
like
thrum.
0 to 60 if he gets like mad or
He
even
gets
happy.
this look in his eyes too, like he gets this crazy eyes. As
He's like a
Captain,
half
I'm
step
like,
from
oh.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah,
yeah.
totally.
He's just, he's not. Whereas, like, so many of the Star Trek captains have always been just, super buttoned up,
Right.
and
Yeah.
just not as visceral. I guess
Right.
is that the word I'm looking for?
Well, maybe
Yeah.
he's more human in that way. Like he doesn't have such a like he does, but he is actually really good friends with lots of the crew. Whereas like all the other captains are just like, oh, I can't, I got to be
Yeah.
careful about, especially Picard, Janeway.
Janeway.
Janeway is like wrestles with that because they're like 75,000 light years away, and
Yeah.
there's some. All right, are we done with this one? We're good.
Is there anything else that stands out on Deep Space Nine that like
There's
characters
so many,
wise?
There's so many things. I mean, we talk about Bashir. He's just like such an idiot in this, and Kira gets mad at him because he
like socially he's an idiot. He's like fresh
He's-
out of the
yeah.
academy or some kind of education. It's his first assignment. But
frontier
he's also
medicine. He
yeah,
wants to
he's
do
like
frontier.
extremely arrogant
Yeah.
and has all the wrong ideas of what he thinks he's in for.
Yeah, and like, Kira is really coming at, she was a freedom fighter for the Bajoran resistance. There's a lot of like trauma there, and he comes in kind of very naively like, I wanted this assignment to do frontier medicine, and she's almost like, well, this is my life. Like,
Yeah, this is my home.
this is just like a game to
a-hole.
you. Yeah, exactly. So he's very like out of touch, but he gets a little better, but he's also kind of weird at times going forward.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I think Odo was probably the character that was the most consistent. Like he's as far as like if you watched Odo in this episode versus like season 4 or something or another,
Yeah.
largely
Yeah,
the
he's
same.
just kind of himself.
Everyone else evolves in their own ways, and Odo does too,
He does
obviously
too.
to some degree.
Yeah.
But
I mean, yeah.
unlike TNG, I would say other than Bashir, I think he's the one that's like the most different compared to how his character evolves.
Yeah.
All of
by
the other
the end of it.
characters are. I mean, obviously, as they get to know each other and they go through adventures, they learn to trust each other. Like everyone grows and evolves and kind of finds their
Yeah,
voice
Yeah.
in terms of the show. But none of them are like starkly out of place. Like unlike on TNG,
Right.
where you have like Troy crying all the time and Data behaving the way that he was behaved, like supposed to be non-emotive, but he's like super cocky, right? Like all these things.
As far as the pilot goes,
As far as the first
it's cool.
episode,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's good character development, and yeah, I mean, DS9, like all the way that all the characters like jam together is like really beautiful and great to me. So I think they're just like on the right track from the beginning.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's jump into Voyager.
Okay, so now we're talking about the caretaker.
So I suppose I can do this
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
The basically the premise of the story is that they're a brand new ship, Voyager, which is post Wolf 359, which is a smaller ship, and so one of the things that and this is some deep lore.
You're pulling his shell right now.
One of the things that they learned from the failure at Wolf 359 is that having more ships that are smaller and more targeted to the types of missions that they can do versus really large can do everything ships is more effective, both from like a resources planning and cost and whatever.
Oh, I never thought about that.
which is why Voyager is way smaller as a ship, because it's designed with a more
Nimble.
it's basically an interception type ship. It's not a battleship per se, but it's
Right.
more like, for example, it can land in the atmosphere, right? It's designed with that kind of versatility in mind, whereas a Galaxy class ship can't. Anyways, so because of this, Janeway, new captain on new ship Voyager, is going to go chase after some Maquis, which is a leftover from Deep Space Nine, which is a whole nother.
And we can't get into that right
Yeah,
now.
a whole thing we can't get into. You probably know it already.
Yeah, you already know it. If you've come this far, then you probably know Star Trek. Otherwise, you wouldn't be hanging in with us.
And you're like, oh, you idiots! You missed this, and you're not talking about this.
Take it to the comments.
Where we frustrate our listeners.
Take it to the comments.
And so they go after them, go through the Badlands, get hit by an energy wave, which magically sends them 70,000 light years away.
As they do.
And then they have to basically solve the mystery of what's going on, and all the characters come along the way, and
They're in the Delta Quadrant.
But wait, before all that, there's that epic Harry Kim Quark moment. Where Quark meets Harry Kim.
They're at Deep Space Nine before they launch
Before
off.
they launch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that?
Well, I just thought it was funny because we in TNG we had the first Ferengis mentioned for the first time, and then Harry's giving Quark a hard time, right?
Mm-hmm.
He says they warned us about you Ferengis in Starfleet Academy, and then Quark loses his mind.
Yeah.
Just
Well, and he
personally.
loses his mind.
Yeah.
Because he's trying to sucker him into buying some stuff, and so he's fake losing his mind
That was
to
it.
try to
That's his
scam him.
mind. Yeah.
And that's where Paris
comes in.
sees him and says, we'll talk about the characters in a minute. So I was just trying to get through the synopsis.
That was it.
Okay,
That was
so
all.
they're in the Delta Quadrant. They're trying to figure out why they're in the Delta Quadrant, and then it's like this whole scene with like they're on a farm or a ranch, drinking
Yeah.
drinking
There were
iced
banjos.
tea.
There
The
were
details
there
aren't
were
really important.
There was corn on the cob and banjos.
It was like pretty weak, honestly,
It was very weak.
I
didn't like it.
because it was all like supposed to be, is all
It's very-
holograms.
it's-
Like
but-
over the hologram stuff is
It's
overused.
cheese.
It's overused.
Yeah.
But basically, the main story choice that leaves them stranded in the Delta Quadrant is I can either use the caretaker to go home, or we and doom the Ocampans to death.
The Ocampans
We
are on
don't
this
even-
planet.
Yeah, we don't even know that.
And the caretaker's like this. He's like this guy in the atmosphere that's sending them energy or something.
The big
So that's why he's the
God.
caretaker, I guess.
Yeah, he helped create their. So basically, what happened
What happened
was
was
the alien. They're out of the galaxy. These aliens in these ships or whatever, and they accidentally destroy the environment on this planet, cause a
the
cataclysm,
caretakers do. Yeah.
and then to solve that, they help the survivors build an underground
Mall.
society, and basically so they can
Mall.
live in a mall.
Yeah, underground.
And then he
In
keeps
space.
the caretaker keeps the mall going, and there was two of them, but one of them ran off.
To do-
Yeah.
to do stuff.
His lover.
Yeah.
And basically, the caretaker is dying and running out of
Yeah.
juice.
Yeah.
And so,
Right, and what does he
anyways, that's
want?
the main plot.
That's
So
it.
Janeway has the choice to either like destroy the thing and save the Ocampans,
But we don't even learn about
or
the-
use the thing and go
Ocamp-
back home.
Where's Neelix and Cass come in? Isn't that before all that too?
Well, yeah, I'm not going through every single minute of the episode.
Just saying
We can talk about
chronologically.
characters.
Ocampans. Anyway, doesn't really matter.
Yeah, Kess is an Ocampan.
Yeah.
Yep.
And her Sandy Duncan haircut.
So as part of solving the whole thing, they meet Neelix
And his
First.
penis nose.
and
His
and he just
titties.
wants to take a bath. He actually didn't want to take a bath, but he
Yeah.
loved it when he took a bath.
And
That
do,
was
Do y'all remember any other space Star Trek freaking hot tubs other than that? Could you see?
Probably on Enterprise. they
Right,
have hot
Tuvok.
tubs.
Isn't Tuvok goes in there and he's floating in this giant Star Trek hot tub.
so even on Voyager, every guest quarters have
Yeah.
a giant sauna tub.
Do they really?
That's what you learn on this
What is that?
episode.
Yeah.
I want one of those.
That's
Okay,
pretty
I'll
nice.
get you one.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
And so Neelix is super happy to have water.
We still got to get through Enterprise.
And then he tricks-
Oh yeah, water's in a short supply.
He tricks Neelix, tricks the crew into going to this particular encampment that's
Mhm.
on the surface of the
Mhm.
planet where the Ocampans are living underground
Yeah.
to save his girlfriend.
Which right. He's sneaky about
And
Yeah.
that's how we get introduced to Cass, who's his girlfriend.
with her her Sandy Duncan haircut.
How do you feel about Cass?
I like Hess.
Yeah?
I
Really?
think she's a lovely character. She has a lot of integrity, and she's very graceful.
Really?
Can't argue with that.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Really?
Yeah.
For real?
And she's got an elf-like haircut.
El-
I like elves, and she's got elf ears. She's like a little elf. She only lives 10 years. She's only 1 year old.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It is.
She's
It
a
is
great
a little
character.
weird.
She's so nice. How can you not
She's
like
a
her?
moral.
So nice.
She's also Neelix's moral compass.
Right, because Neelix is like, the Talaxians are kind of like shady, actually. They're
They're
like
the-
a little
Yeah.
Frankish.
Yeah.
Yeah. Want to buy a watch? Yeah.
I mean, not all of them are.
Yeah.
I don't know. We don't know
Mostly.
that, though.
I mean, they get.
Do they all have the dick noses, or is it just him?
Shell thinks their noses look like penises.
I'm not the only one that thinks their noses look like penis.
I have
Penises.
never thought that.
No.
I never
Yeah.
thought that either.
Yeah, that's kind of gross. Why would you?
I am
what's-
calling bull.
I never have.
Shit.
I mean, I know he has like a modified nose.
Oh, it's modified, all right.
I always want to just
Modified
squish his
for-
head together.
for sweet
To make the
lovin'.
brain squeeze
No,
out of his
because
ears.
he's got the sides
That's-
of his head are straight, and I just want to put my
Oh,
hands around it.
yeah, it's got
squish
like a
it.
little dimple thing.
Yeah, just
in his
squish him,
mohawk?
like,
Oh, yeah.
just like rub the sides of it up and down. He probably would like that. So
He probably would.
See, I have a theory.
I wouldn't want to do it
I have a
then.
theory that Kess was never into him.
She just didn't know any
she
better.
she was being abused by the lobster head people. What are they called? Right? The lobster head people that Neelix took them to.
Oh, the
The lobster
Kazan.
The Kazan.
Kazans,
With the
yeah.
crazy hair?
Yeah. Yeah. So she was being abused by the Kazans.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's like, "Hey, Neelix, Neelix, save me, Neelix."
But they knew each other already.
Yeah.
Right, but that's why she's like, you know,
We don't really know the whole story.
I'll
She
call-
came out. She
We don't know.
She
I'll-
escaped from
I'll clean your
underground
Jeffrey's tube
and,
if you
and
get me
snuck
out of
out.
here.
She scurried out of a tunnel,
And scampered.
Scampered away.
away.
Yeah.
Neelix found her
Yeah.
and said, "You're kind of hot," and she's like, "Don't mind if I do."
Just like, all right.
And so then they had a thing, and then she got captured or something,
You think so?
and then honestly, it's kind of a big plot hole because if she was captured
Mm-hmm.
and being held in the camp, right?
Mhm.
Why was Neelix out just scouring for debris when he ran across
I don't know.
Voyager
I
with not a
wasn't-
care in the world?
I wasn't paying attention.
And then decided,
Oh,
oh
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
now that I have these resources
Oh,
with
yeah.
these people
Oh,
with all
yeah,
the water,
my girlfriend.
yeah, let's go
Yeah.
save my girlfriend.
My girlfriend, yeah.
He had no
Yeah.
sense of urgency whatsoever when he was like, it'd be one thing if he said, "Hey, do you have water? I really need water. I'm out here," and then immediately going to the planet.
Mm.
But with him, like, just shows like what a selfish a-hole he is, because he's indulging in all the water and he's drinking it and he had his whole feast and he's bathing and doing whatever, and it's like, then they're like, "Okay, we've arrived." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I got to put my game face on," and
Yeah.
it's like,
But doesn't he also, like, they beam down like those two huge water tanks
yeah,
for the lobster guys, the
The
Kazans?
Kazon.
they're not
They're,
lobsters.
and
They're humans.
they're some form of space crustacean.
No, they're not.
Space crustacean.
normal.
They're no.
They just have crazy hair.
Is that your story and you're sticking to
You're a
it?
little speciesist.
Speciest.
Am I wrong?
Is that
Are they lobster people, or they're just
They're
Regular-
they're lobster
Crusta-
people.
They really are?
It's
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
No,
the
They go-
PC
No, they're not.
the
They're
PC
normal
term
people.
is space
Don't
crustacean.
listen to either of these
they actually
two.
they look
Listeners,
they
don't
look
listen
kind of
to
like
Space-
all of them.
you're,
Space
you look
crustacean.
Kazon. You're kind of
You
lobstery.
do look like a Kazon today.
Rude.
Okay, listeners, do not listen to
See,
either
but
of them. I'm right
I-
on this. They're not
Now you
lobster
made me
people.
forget that I had
There's
a
only one
thought.
way to find
I
out.
had a thought. Oh yeah. So the
Get the butter.
where's the pigeon?
Rewatch the episode.
Where's the pigeon?
All right, are we
No,
done
so
with this?
wait, no. I was going somewhere with the space crustaceans,
It's going
the
over
water
time.
tanks, right? They're desperate for water,
Yeah, yeah.
desperate for water, dying without water, and then right before they beam off, isn't it Neelix that goes pew, pew, shoots their water tanks? The water starts
Yeah,
just pouring out
What's
over
the point?
So that
it was-
they can
it was-
escape.
it,
We
it,
gotta wrap
but
it.
it, but it was mean.
It was
That's
what?
all it's mean. That's all I'm saying.
He did it as a diversion so that they could escape.
No, I get it, but I mean, they were thirsty.
True. Okay, so then Janeway destroys the caretaker's array,
Yeah, and then the adventure
and then
begins.
now
Jellyfish.
they're really stranded 75 light years away from Earth, and they're like, "Damn, we're fucked."
So interesting
Hey, go ahead.
little tidbit
Yeah, we
that I
missed-
noticed on this watching, because I've seen this multiple times. I've probably seen this one more than I have the others. Except for Man-Trap. After half not half, but a good portion of the crew dies, right? When the caretaker sends them off. It's not a smooth ride.
Okay.
And there's damage, and the doctor dies, and the first officer died. and,
Right. The
like, all
doctor
these-
dies.
all
That's a
these
big
people-
point we missed.
Right. There's really no mourning on Janeway's part. Granted, she didn't know them very much, but when Harry Kim gets captured later, and he's not, she really gets upset.
Oh yeah, we forgot to talk about. No, yeah, she
And
About that.
gets really
We
upset.
had to talk
Yeah.
about
And she's like, "We got to get
Chakotay,
this
too.
crew home. I gotta
Polana.
save my crew." But she doesn't really mention like, "Oh yeah, there's like all these 50 other people that just died
Yeah,
under my
but-
watch."
No.
Whatever.
But they're all like a new crew. Same with TNG. Like they just came
Well,
together
same
for
with
this
Harry.
mission.
Like she barely knows him.
I know, but it's hidden her. It's hidden her.
I guess.
You know,
I guess.
she's like,
I don't know. It
"Damn."
just kind of struck me as like
It's,
There's
it's-
no mention of-
It's Harry's
Yeah.
soulful eyes.
He's very handsome.
He's also very earnest.
Yeah, he's a great
It's very-
character.
Yeah.
Tom
Right,
Paris.
so,
Can we talk about Tom Paris?
We gotta get to the Enterprise. This episode's gonna be so long.
Well, we got a lot we can cut out.
Okay,
I'm sure.
we're losing people.
Yeah.
We lost him. This is just for us now.
way back.
Tom Paris. Okay, so the backstory for Tom Paris is that he was in Starfleet Academy.
Oh right,
He caused a shuttle accident,
right.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, got Wesley in trouble.
Hold on.
Sorry.
Wasn't going to say anything, confessed, got kicked out, joined the Maquis, went
Yeah.
on one mission, got busted, went to
Yeah.
prison.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Janeway found him and initially had him on because he was going to be an advisor because he was the only one that Starfleet
He was in,
had
he
that
was in
had been
gardening jail.
through the Badlands or whatever.
The gardening jail.
And he's a great pilot.
And he's a great pilot. Although she didn't want him there initially as a
Oh,
pilot.
okay.
She just wanted him to observe. He had no rank, no
Yeah.
station,
Right.
nothing. But his backstory is other than the Maquis part, is exactly the same as a character that the same actor played in another episode of TNG,
Yeah.
where Wesley Crusher goes to the academy.
What's his name in that?
It's not Tom Paris,
No, it's not.
Which is such a missed opportunity.
but it's the
yeah.
same. It's exactly
Nick
Something.
La Quinta.
yeah,
La
something.
La Quinta, like the
Yeah.
like the
Kona.
hotel.
And so, but it's
La Quinta Motor Inn.
but it's exactly the same story. And so they kept Tom Paris,
Locarno.
Locarno,
So close.
Nick Locarno. Yeah, totally.
Good memory though.
Exactly
Yeah,
the
that's all
same
there.
backstory, so that you can get to Tom Paris, and I like that backstory, but they retconned it so that it is Tom Paris now, not Nick Locarno. Or there was two people that looked exactly alike.
Yeah.
Essentially.
I think Lower Decks makes fun of this a bit.
I think they.
Oh, do
Yeah, I
they?
think you're right.
Yeah, that's why I know it's Nick Locarno. Because
That's
I had to
funny.
look it up. Because he comes back. He is Nick Locarno in a Lower Decks episode.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
Tom
okay.
Paris is a better name
Yeah.
than Nick Locarno. So I don't hate it, but it always struck me as funny that
Okay.
it's the same.
Okay, we got to get to Enterprise, right? I mean, it's going on and on.
Is there
Okay,
anything else
just-
Voyager related, character
I
wise?
mean, we could go on and on about Voyager, but is this the time, the place?
All right, fine, fair enough. Enterprise.
Okay, Enterprise.
So don't do the whole we
To-
need
to-
cut.
To Paul
What's the story
the
about?
to
Okay,
Paul
there's a
the
Klingon.
end.
There's a Klingon crash in 2151, pursued by a Suliban.
Suleiman.
Suliban.
Yeah, Suleiman.
Then they got to take the Klingon back to Kronos. Archer gets this ship, and it's the first ship
Yeah,
pre-Federation and they got
The Vulcans-
T'Pol.
the
The
Vulcans-
Vulcans are
Vul-
like
mean.
sponsoring them or
Yeah.
something like
They're
that.
Sponsored.
haters.
Today's flight is brought to you by.
Yeah.
So their first mission is to take this Klingon back to Kronos, and then there's like some kind of temporal Cold War, and then Archer and the crew rescue the Klingon from a Soloban complex, and then Archer and T'Pol begin to form a stronger working relationship.
Oh, was it an AI?
That's what you took away from.
Did Gemini write that last bit? You know it did. I love it. I only say that.
Is that
because
good?
it's
Is that a
That's-
good
that's
summary?
great.
I did
it's
read
always
it, but it was
insightful.
bullet points.
Yeah,
So,
it's good though.
I actually thought the opening on this one was one of the better ones.
I forgot to watch it this week, so I
They
haven't
keep
watched it in
they
a
keep
while.
the action going
It's such a fascinating period in Star Trek history. I think.
as far as the pre.
Yeah, just so much pre everything. I mean, the transporters, right? That was like that wasn't a thing.
Yeah, the one thing about this one is like, okay, they're like so close, and this is my just opinion, but like they start the show where it's like, oh, we don't have phasers, we have these other kind of like shitty laser pistol guns. Ooh, speaking of the laser pistol gun, so you know how they go down to the frozen world, and it's like they're trying to get information to try to figure out where the Suliban are so they can save the Klingon, like do the whole thing. So they have to go to alien outpost planet, and that's where it's super cold, and there's a bunch of people there, different races, and they're doing their
First
seedy
away
underbelly
mission,
investigation or whatever.
First away mission.
They get into a pew-pew fight trying to escape, and when they pull the what one of the things I was complaining about before is every time someone raises a sci-fi gun, it goes whoosh, whoosh, whoosh,
Nowadays.
Yeah.
whoosh. Yeah, it's more of a modern thing.
Modern.
So Archer raises the pistol, and he flips a switch, and it goes. And I actually like, hey, that actually kind of works because he flipped it on.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like I raise it and it makes noise. He did it. He took an action to turn it on.
But it still alerts people that he's got a gun in his hand.
It totally. I agree. It
a
doesn't.
little noise.
Yeah.
But there was a little thumb action there.
But I appreciated that they went to that level of detail for that. Anyways, the same thing with the transporter, not the pew thing, but just like we don't have tractor beams. We have to use the grappler, which they did a great job
Right.
sticking with through the whole series.
That's
Yeah.
good.
And the transporter, it's like, oh yeah, we don't. It's
we don't-
brand new technology.
Yeah.
We're the only ones that even have this thing,
We're not even really sure how it
and
works.
it's not safe for people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they should have stuck with that.
Yeah.
Agreed.
But even in the first episode, they're like, "Oh, we got to save the captain."
We're gonna
this
use
has never
it.
We're
been,
gonna
this
use
has
it.
never been tried before.
I feel like they should have
Yeah,
saved
just
that
a little
for,
bit longer.
for later.
Yeah,
you know,
okay.
No,
and
fair.
like
Milk-
keep the
Milk that a little bit more.
keep
what it was like.
the low tech nature of it. Right?
Yeah.
They don't have phasers. They have the phase cannons, which are
Right.
weaker. They don't have
Right.
shields. They polarize the plating. Like
Yeah.
all these things that like you keep
Yeah.
it the tech like it's lower than what you see later. All those things are great.
Yes, agreed.
But there's just a couple things here and there that's like, oh, if only they would have just kind of
yeah, just a little bit longer.
just held out on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that
just
makes
a little
sense.
bit. Keep the low tech.
Yeah.
I kind of like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then same thing with the universal translator, right? It's a handheld device. Doesn't hardly work half the time. Although sometimes it magically does, when they need it to.
Yeah.
But all those kinds of things were great. Characters wise,
Yeah,
Trip. Talk about
I don't.
Trip's introduction. Do you
I have-
remember?
I didn't watch it this week. Is what I'm saying.
Oh.
I barely remember. I remember the Klingon on the planet. Okay, wait. Maybe I remember Trip was kind of a jerk, or is that in just earlier episodes?
He's eager and he gets frustrated because, they're all frustrated. In fact, Archer Eve is even more so.
Well, the Vulcans are just
Um,
treating them like toddlers.
And he doesn't
Totally.
like T'Pol because it's like, this is our Vulcan representative, and he's like, ugh,
Yeah, you're
why
Yeah.
does she
spying
have to
out.
be here?
Seriously,
yeah, he's keeping
exactly.
her. He's categorizing her along with every other Vulcan
Yeah.
bureaucrat that he's ever dealt with.
Yeah.
Generalizing.
Yeah.
Now, and to be fair, even from the very beginning with her, she was super condescending and sarcastic. kind of arrogant, like, I
Yeah.
don't want to be here. I don't want to be on this assignment. I was
Right.
told to be here.
Right.
You're not ready to be out here. You
Right.
should be listening to the Vulcan
Mm.
people or whatever,
The high command, yeah.
the high command. And she has to warm up to the idea as well. But she's a handful from the very beginning.
Does she warm up in this pilot?
Yes.
Does she?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
And it kind of happens because the captain gets left behind on the Suliban ship or whatever. So they grab the Klingon, they get out of there, but the captain is left behind, and they have to figure out. At first, they kind of argue about, and this is Trip into Paul, about whether or not to even go back, and then they kind of figure out how to. Oh, maybe they get the captain back and he's injured or something. I can't remember exactly what the detail was.
We don't need to know.
But they have to solve the thing without Archer there, and they do, and basically the captain is kind of impressed. In fact, I know the captain is there because
Who's the captain? Archer.
Archer, because
Okay.
he kind of wakes up and he's like, "Oh shit, what's going on? Like, what did I miss? Are we going back to Earth?" And they're like, "No, we're on our way here." And he's like, "Oh, how'd you figure that out?" And it's like, "Oh, we worked together, and it was her idea." And he's surprised
Yeah.
that she was actually helping
Right.
versus telling them to give up and
Yeah.
stop,
Right.
basically.
Yeah.
Even though she didn't really agree with why they were doing what they were
Right.
doing.
I kind of vaguely. Yeah, it's coming back to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
That's
like, good character moments.
Really good. Yeah.
My favorite, though, as far as, well, the Doctor, he was great.
Yeah,
from the
he's
very
always
from the
great.
very first scene.
Flux.
He's great.
We love Flux.
And yeah, the whole, because he was not even supposed to be on Enterprise. He only went there because he was on Earth, and he was working on the Klingon, and so when they brought the Klingon to take him back to Kronos, they brought Phlox along. And
Okay.
then by the end, Phlox is like, "You guys are rad.
So he just wants to stay.
I'm just gonna stay," and he moved all the shit in, and
Oh,
like,
I don't. I gotta go back.
Yeah.
I gotta go back.
Number one, yeah. Those Denoblians.
Okay, so
great characters on Enterprise.
Oh yeah, great character. Enterprise is a great show,
Super
and you have to have faith of the heart to watch it.
Yes.
the big sigh behind me on the floor. Did you?
Well, there was a pot. I like squeaked the chair.
Oh, that was
And
you.
it sounded
That sounded like Goji.
Sounded like somebody ripped one,
Oh, I
which I'm
thought
sure
it
the
was-
mic is going to pick up.
I thought
It's
it was-
great.
Goji was getting excited about your singing again.
So which?
So what do we want to do with all this?
Okay, so
What you want to do?
of all of the Star Treks that
Yeah.
has Star Trekked,
Yeah,
which
Pre J.J. Abrams.
of the pilots.
which did it best as far as introducing you to the that particular section of the Star Trek universe, introducing the characters, having a compelling story.
Okay, well, I'm going to say obviously Deep Space Nine, but I think Voyager did a good job too. And I think I vaguely remember Enterprise did good too. So I would do it in that order. Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, TNG, and the original series, put those at the bottom. Animated at the bottom.
Yeah, animated is definitely at the bottom. I mean, it's
Okay,
just
well, yeah, we know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I kind of like TNG better. I don't know. Maybe I like the original series one better than TNG. I really didn't like the TNG pilot. I thought it was weird.
yeah.
It was all over the place.
It was all over the place. Yeah.
How about you?
Man, that's tough. Like, I do really enjoy the DS9 pilot. Yeah, gosh, and I'm not a Janeway fan, but I may have to say that like the Voyager pilot it's really good. I mean, it's just there's a lot going on. There's a cohesive story. You know, you get your action, your suspense, your character introduction. You get to see how like, all these people are flawed and weird and
Yep,
Yeah.
and the big moral dilemma.
yeah.
That-
So I would
that
do. I
Janeway
would,
deals
yeah.
with.
I would just number one that, number two DS9, and then
Okay,
everything else. Yeah,
fair.
all that.
I really like the original series.
TNG as a pilot
No,
Oh,
like
OG.
classic,
with the
because
monster?
it just drops you in. It's a contained adventure. It's
Yeah.
not trying to be an hour and a half multi-part thing that
Yeah.
drags
Yeah.
the story out. It's just like
Here's the thing.
we're
that's happening,
we're
right.
cowboys in space.
Yeah.
Here's the monster of the week,
Yeah.
and it just drops you right in.
That's cool. Yeah.
I like that. I also like. It's kind of a tie between Deep Space Nine and Enterprise. I think I'm going to give it to Enterprise because I think Enterprise kind of like it had because it introduced more new things that we hadn't seen in Star Trek. And granted, it's backwards, so it's kind of in the past, right? It's before Captain Kirk's ship and everything. But it was in that, but that also gave it like some freshness. It wasn't just another ship
Yeah.
with another set of professional people, and right.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's a lot more. There's a lot less protocol, a lot more informality, higher tension, higher emotions.
Yeah.
The Vulcans were a little bit off as well, which is kind of explained later on. Like there's all these. I mean, there's some things I didn't like the whole. I never liked the whole time travel, time war, all that stuff. But same thing with like, I didn't really like the whole. It's a lot of the religious visionary quest stuff in Deep Space Nine right in the beginning. Wasn't a huge fan of that. Thought it dragged on too much. Didn't really like a lot of the caretaker stuff in Voyager when they're on the farm and dealing with the banjo guy. So cringy and dumb.
It is cringy.
Yeah, the corner cob.
Yeah.
But despite those things, I think, and I love Voyager, but I think Deep Space Nine had better character introductions overall.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
for
would agree
sure.
with that.
Yeah.
Because there's especially because like just the drama is immediate
Yeah.
and like with the like we talked about with Cisco dealing with all the Wolf 359 stuff, and he's like, I'm out of here in a week, or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not doing this.
And then kind of everyone finding their footing. I think they did that better on Deep Space Nine than Voyager. But Voyager's like impact, like introducing the characters and then just immediately killing off a bunch of them.
That was brave too.
Like put other people. It's like, that was also really good.
That had never been done before.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to pick a favorite.
I know. I think Enterprise is unique too because it's like this new history it's laying out, this new point in history pre-Federation, which is really, really interesting. So.
Yeah, it's a super interesting point in Earth history. And
there's I mean, both of those shows have like story arcs that are that kind of go throughout the whole series really nicely versus like TNG or probably the original series are kind of like going around every episode's like its own contained thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
So I think the one thing we all agree on is that the animated series is hardly worth talking about, and TNG is hard to watch.
Yes.
And with the pilot.
Yeah, we're talking about the pilot.
That's what we're talking about in the context of this episode.
Yeah, it was clunky. It was a little clunky.
Yeah. Regardless of what we put on top, TNG is definitely the bottom.
But we got to make some reinsertion innuendos.
So then,
saucer separation.
It has some redeeming qualities.
When they brought the saucer back together.
Yeah,
and they drug that out for like 5 minutes.
Yeah. Dun, 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 dun,
and
dun,
Riker's
dun,
like,
dun, dun.
move forward, go slower.
Oh dear.
Pitch 3 degrees.
Oh no.
And it was so dramatic.
During that whole point, it kept switching to everybody's, Tasha's face, and everybody else on the deck, and they're all like equal parts of worried and trepidatious, right? And then as soon as like he plunges, just right, reinsertion is complete. Then they're all like,
right, Chris?
Well, that was underwhelming.
wait,
Is our reinsertion complete with this episode?
is that?
I think so. We've gone way over.
We've gone
I'm
way-
gonna have some editing to
Is there,
do.
no one's
way
gonna, no one's gonna
over.
are you still here?
Is
Are we-
anyone
are-
is
are
anyone
y'all-
out
is
there?
anyone out there?
Is anyone out there?
Yeah. Is there anybody out there?
Yeah. They're probably gone. But
Yeah.
we're still here, so and the dogs are still here.
Yeah, the
too.
dogs are still
As
here.
long as we had fun, that's really all that
That's really all
matters.
that matters.
And maybe some of our friends will listen to it.
Yay.
Nope.
And hopefully
Nope.
not potential
Nope, probably
employers.
not.
Closely not potential employers. What do you mean?
Okay.
I don't understand.
All right,
Yeah.
that's
All right.
it for us.
Thanks everybody.
We'll see you next time.